Hi everyone, my name is Kasia. Thank you so much for joining me today. And today I have a very special episode in which I'd like to talk about the newest spring collection of patterns from Drops, which has actually a lot of very interesting patterns. So if by any chance you don't know about the Drops, they are also called Garn Studio. And they are a producer of yarns, but for decades they have been publishing a lot of free patterns. Everything is available for free and translated to many different languages, which is quite unique. On the other hand, they are a bit controversial. They are amazing because they are free and beautiful and there is a lot of them, but sometimes they're not very beginner friendly. So in this video I'd like to cover some of the newest patterns from their spring collection that will actually be worth your time. First of all, I am wearing one of the Drops patterns. This is a really old one, something that I have knit early in my knitting career. The pattern is called Heart on Fire. It's a tank top knit bottom up. I have used a mix of cotton and silk, I believe. It's a fingering weight garment. And unfortunately, I'm not wearing it at all these days because it's way too cropped. Hey, baby! The assistant here came in to tell me that the lights were off, so it's better now. So I guess we can start with the patterns, and I have selected a few that really caught my attention, and I will discuss their details, well, their construction, the recommended yarn, as well as some alternatives that you might use and some things you might want to take into account if you decide to knit them. If I'm looking down, it's because I have my iPad on my lap and I'm looking at my notes. The first pattern that I have on my list is called Lace Diamond Sweater, and it's from collection number 266. When it comes to construction, is a plain raglan sweater. You can clearly see the raglan lines, but what makes this sweater really beautiful is this lace diamond pattern all over it, which I think would be perfect for spring because at the same time you have your full body covered, but it's airy and lacy and the wind can come through. So it's perfect for those warmer spring days, but you will not be overheating in that one, definitely. The original sample is knit in one strand of Drops alpaca, which is a sport weight yarn, plus a strand of their kid mohair, which results in around worsted weight gauge. They knitted on 4.5mm needles for the body and 3.5mm for the ribbing. As I said, it's a raglan construction, it's knit top down. I don't think there are any short rows to shape the neckline or the back, so it's very simple from that perspective. The diamond lace pattern is very simple, very repeatable, geometric pattern, so it should be quite easy to work up. But on the other hand, it's introduced very early in the pattern, so you will have to work the raglan lines at the same time as the lace motif, so it might require a bit of more focus at the beginning, but I think it's a beautiful one, a beautiful yet simple pullover. I really like this pattern in this fluffy texture that they achieved by using a strand of mohair, but also the alpaca has a bit of the fluff of its own. So I think that for alternatives, I would go with something fluffy as well, like 2 strands of mohair or 1 strand of suri alpaca, which tends to be a bit more thick than the regular lace mohair, or maybe something like Camaros Nefnok, which is a blown yarn with a lot of fluff as well. Another pattern on my list is called Icy Ballerina Wrap, and as the name suggests, it's a wrap, so kind of a cardigan. This one they knit in a strand of Drops Flora, which is their sock yarn, I believe, plus a strand of their mohair, which results in a DK weight gauge. So you could go with any classical, typical fingering weight strand plus your favorite mohair strand and achieve a very similar look, this airy and flowy and fluffy cardigan. This one is again a raglan construction, knit top down. This one is knit flat because it's an open cardigan, and you also shape the neckline, the v-neck shaping, the wrap, by doing some increases. And what's very special about this wrap is this thicker button band at the bottom that you tie into a bow at the back of the cardigan, which creates a very cute look, and I think this one would look especially amazing with some cute dresses or skirts in the spring. The next pattern on my list they call a sweater, mint halo sweater, but in fact for me this is more like a t-shirt, a blouse. They knit it originally in Drops Cotton Merino, or another yarn from their range that they recommend is Dropspell, which is a dupe for Sandnes Garn Line, the worsted version. So it's a worsted weight top pattern with this circular yoke and some eyelets. Quite simple, but at the same time the eyelets give it a bit of interest. It's knit on 4mm needles, and this one actually, what's interesting for Drops is that it provides instructions for optional short row shaping. They call it elevation, but you are instructed to actually do some short rows in the back to lift the back of the top of the sweater more, so you're not choked by the front neckline. Some yarns that you might use for that pattern other than the ones from Drop selection, as I mentioned, Sandnes Garn Line is perfect as it's basically the same thing as Dropspell. You could also consider holding 2 strands of Knitting for Olive Cotton Merino. Let's make it a bit more spring, so that's why cotton. Maybe Holst Garn Coast, which is I think my favorite cotton merino blend. It's 50-50 or close to that, cotton and merino. Or maybe go with a bamboo yarn. Recently I've been working with Casasol bamboo. This is a Spanish brand. They have a few different weights of bamboo yarns in their selection. So they have a sport weight, but also a DK/worsted weight bamboo, which I think would be perfect for such a spring top. Another pattern is actually a skirt pattern. It's called Whisper Blue Skirt, and it's knit originally in Drops Cotton Light, yes, which is their, I think, cotton blend. It might be cotton with polyester. I'm not sure if it's 100% cotton. So my recommendation when it comes to yarn would be to use something with cotton or another plant fiber that would give the garment a bit of strength, because you will be sitting a lot on it and you don't want it to have holes. I think that Holst Garn Coast would be a good alternative, held double. Maybe something with linen, or maybe you could try sock yarn with nylon held double, as nylon should give the fabric durability that the skirt needs. The construction is very simple. It's knit top down. You start with the waistband, then you do some increases for the main body and you increase throughout the whole body. Is it the body of the skirt? Throughout the whole length of the skirt to give it a bit of an A-line shaping, and at the end you add an elastic to the waistband so it actually fits your waist nicely. I chose this next pattern because of the fun texture it has on the yoke. It's called Blue Ray Sweater, a lot of blue references in those collections. And this one originally was knit in Drops Air, which is this blown yarn, very similar to Camarasa Snefnog. So you could go with that yarn or any blow type yarn, I guess, such as Sandnes Cos, or maybe 2 strands of mohair even. This one is knit on 4.5mm needles. It's a top-down construction with circular yoke. I'm not sure if there are any shaping for the neckline because they do not mention it specifically in the pattern description, but looking at the photos, it lays quite nicely on the model, so maybe there is some shaping actually. And this texture on the yoke is achieved by doing some simple knits and purls in kind of a ribbing pattern. Simple yet effective. And the edges are finished with an I-cord, which gives the finished garment a bit of lightness. This pattern is called Meringue Bliss Sweater, and I chose it because it reminds me a lot of a pattern from Lene Holm Samso called Palm Tea. So this lace motif is very similar. It's a circular yoke construction again, knit top down, and in this one definitely there are no short rows for the neckline, but I think you could try and add them yourself after the lace section. The original sample is knit in drops north plus their kid mohair, so again typical fingering plus mohair lace combination. Another fun alternative I think would be to hold 2 strands of Filcolana alba. Filcolana alba is 100% alpaca yarn, which is somewhere between lace weight and fingering weight, I think. And you would still get this lightweight fabric with a bit of a halo, but maybe not as fluffy as from having silk mohair strands in the fabric. I think this pattern is very beautiful with this lace motif, but at the same time very wearable, like a springy blouse / sweater. And with this next pattern, I'm thinking about summer already. It's called Breezy Oats Dress, and it's this very simple spaghetti strap dress. Nothing very fancy about it, but I think it would be very, very cute to be worn on top of a t-shirt, something similar to what I have today. And then for summer, it's perfect as well. You start with I-cords for the straps, which are actually tight, so it will be easy to adjust their length. Then you do some increases to shape the yoke for the bust. Then you continue straight for the majority of the body. Do some increases, I believe, for the skirt part. And at the very bottom, you have this simple flounce for which you do a round of rapid increases, I believe. So originally, they made it in drops Paris, which is their DK weight, or maybe even worsted weight, 100% cotton yarn. So you can go with a cotton yarn or maybe 2 strands of knitting for olive pure silk held together. I think that would create a lovely fabric as well. Maybe something with linen, so it's very breathable for the summer. Another yarn that would be fun to use for this one is Rosario's Quattro Principe, which is a blend of cotton mostly. No, sorry, actually, it's 50% linen, 36% cotton, and 40% silk. So it should create an amazing breathable fabric. The next pattern is called Vanilla Twirl Cardigan, and it's a cardigan, a short-sleeved one, but this one has quite an interesting construction for drops because it's a raglan cardigan, but I think looking at the photos that the raglan is actually a compound raglan, which means that you have different rate of increases for this part, and then the underarm increases are done differently, which gives a better fit to the both sleeve and your bust because it has this like S-line shaping. In the original sample, they used drop saffron, which is 100% cotton fingering weight yarn. And you could follow that direction and make the cardigan lean more into this blouse style using a cotton blend, or maybe something again with linen. A fun yarn that I found for this one is called Viking Garn Linus. It's 50% cotton and 50% linen, so perfect for summer. But if you want to go more into the cardigan direction, something that will provide you with a bit more warmth, you can take any fingering weight yarn that you like knitting for olive merino or cotton merino, or maybe Filcolana Mercy, which is a blend of cotton and merino. They recommend 3.5mm needles for this cardigan, which I think results in quite a lightweight and open fabric. It's knit top down raglan, as I said, I believe a compound raglan. It has this quite high V, so it should not reveal anything in the bust area, and it has a bit of a flounce at the bottom, again similar as what we've seen in the dress. The construction is a bit tricky because you start with some I-cord bands. I was not sure looking at the pattern what they mean exactly. I think that once you start knitting it's more clear, but just from reading it, it wasn't that clear. So I think they tell you to knit some I-cord bands for the back and the V, and then you start picking up stitches and knitting the stockinette from there. So I'm thinking that instead of casting on with those I-cord, those bands, I would simply just do the stockinette part and then attach the I-cord bands at the end. That should simplify it. The last pattern is another cardigan. It's called Sweet Lime Cardi, and unfortunately this one is the only one that's knit bottom up, but I love the final look of it so much that I couldn't not talk about it. It's again all over lace pattern with those simple yet very effective lace motif and regular stockinette sleeves. It's knit bottom up. You're doing some v-neck shaping, and then you do a 3 needle bind off, I believe, for the shoulders, and then the sleeves are picked up and worked top down. You actually do some sleeve cap shaping, so it lays nicely on the shoulder. And again, the band construction is a bit weird here. They talk about 7-stitch I-cord, which I'm not sure by looking at the photos what that means, but I would consider skipping that and doing a double knit button band. This one is made in, again, Drops Cotton Light, which is their DK weight yarn, and alternatives, again, if you want more blousy, flowy style, 2 strands of cotton knitting for Olive Pure Silk. For more of a cardigan version, knitting for Olive Merino. Or if you want to be very fancy, you could try Cardiff Cashmere. These are some of my favorite patterns from what I consider their spring collection. A lot of lace, a lot of cardigans, a lot of playing with the yarns and the textures, leaning more into those plant fibers, but still creating very wearable pieces that can be worn not only in the spring but throughout the whole year by layering them. They are not reinventing the wheel with the construction here. They are iterating over simple shapes, applying different yarns, different structures like this ribbing details, lace patterns, which results in really simple yet beautiful garments. So give Drops Designs a try. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one.